We talked earlier about what JSON is in a more general context. Now let's go ahead and focus on how we can use JSON in WordPress. Keep in mind that JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. It's primarily used for data exchange, particularly through the WordPress REST API and the Theme.json file. It enables developers to interact with and configure themes and plugins. Here's a breakdown of how JSON is used in WordPress. The WordPress REST API is a set of code designed to facilitate communication between WordPress and other systems. This allows developers to build applications that interact with WordPress data without directly accessing the WordPress admin panel. The WordPress REST API uses JSON as the data format for exchanging information between a WordPress website and other applications or systems. Developers can use the REST API to perform actions such as creating posts, updating settings, and fetching user data, all by sending and receiving JSON data. JSON enables the creation of mobile apps, plugins, and other integrations that can communicate seamlessly with WordPress. Examples include fetching a list of posts, submitting a form, creating a mobile app that interacts with your WordPress site, or integrating your WordPress site with other systems. JSON syntax is a simple text-based format based on a set of rules that are easily understood by both machines and humans. This is why it's so popular. It contains key value pairs, with the value being either a string, number, object, array, Boolean, or null value. While this data format uses JavaScript object syntax, JSON is a subset of the JavaScript language that is able to work independently from the language. This is especially important when working with APIs while using another programming language. You are still able to send and receive data in the JSON format. Here's some tips for writing JSON using syntax standards. As I mentioned, the JSON data is generally easy to read and understand, but there are a few important things you should know when dealing with the syntax. First, if you're dealing with storing files in a JSON format, then it's important to remember that the file type extension for JSON ends with the .json. Second, when creating JSON data, there are several rules for how the data types are displayed. As I stated earlier, JSON uses basic types to organize the data, including strings, numbers, Boolean values, arrays, null statements, and objects. In a key value pair, the key is always a string that's enclosed in quotation marks, and the value must be one of the 6 JSON value types that I've just mentioned. Key value pairs must have double quotes around the string values. Here's an example of a key, occupation, with the value of teacher. When you have multiple key value pairs, you must separate them by a comma at the end of each line, such as what I'm showing you here. When you're dealing with objects in JSON, they must be contained within curly braces. Here's an example of an object. You can see that we have 2 key value pairs, color set to teal and food set to sushi. This is an object. An array must be contained by square brackets, and the items inside the array must be separated by commas. Here's an example of an array called Sea Life, and you can see this contains 3 items: whale, octopus, and shark. Make sure that when you write JSON, you include white spaces and new lines for key value pairs. You should also use indentation when nesting arrays inside of objects. The computer doesn't require these, but it's helpful for humans who have to read your data. Remember that JSON is meant to be easy to read, so indentations and new lines will help make that possible for everyone. I just wanted to mention these things before we get into modifying our child theme and starting to work with the JSON file.